It's as close to time travel as we're gonna get. This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
Hello there, that would be me. Thank you for checking out the podcast. This is Time Travel. In less than 10 minutes, we will boot through the decades. How far back will we go this week? I think 1965 maybe, and we'll come up as far as 2015 during This Week in Music History. May 11th to May 15th. This was the week that Led Zeppelin went to a gig, but...
And a couple of times he made mistakes.
In 1977, what band were described as...
And the energy in that room, I've never come across such energy.
And this week in 2015, we said goodbye to a legend.
Having purchased his first guitar at the age of 12.
This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
Okay, 1974, first of all, when Led Zeppelin, the foursome, attended a show in Los Angeles. Who did they go to see? Elvis Presley. But as Robert Plant takes up the story...
And a couple of times he made mistakes. And I remember that night at the Forum, he was doing something like Reconsider Baby or whatever it was, the Lowell Fulson song. Yeah. And he stopped it and he said, wait a minute, we've got Led Zeppelin in here tonight, we've got to get this right.
Well, hello there. Wait a minute, hold it. If we could start together, fellas, because we got Led Zeppelin out there and Jimmy Darren and a whole bunch of people, and let's try to look like we know what we're doing.
This week in 1981, Bob Marley, at just age 36, was dead.
Singer Bob Marley, his reggae music known far beyond its roots in Jamaica, died in a Miami hospital today after a long battle against cancer. Bob Marley was 36 years old.
You know, Bob is 45 years gone. Longer than he was around. 1965, this week, the Stones recorded I Can't Get No Satisfaction at RCA Studios in Hollywood. Keith had come up with the guitar riff a week earlier. Keith Richards.
You wrote songs and 5 days later you recorded it. You barely know the thing. And then you take it on the road for 50 years. I'm starting to get the hang of it now.
This week in 1977, after being dropped by both EMI Records and A&M Records, in less than 6 months actually, Virgin Records swooped in and said that they had signed the Sex Pistols.
I'd heard a lot of excitement about this new band called the Sex Pistols, and they were performing at the 100 Club in Ox Street. And I went down to see them. Everybody was, jumping up and down and going absolutely mad. I remember just sort of watching, thinking, I've never seen anything like this. And the energy in that room, I've never come across such energy.
In 1985 this week, Bruce Springsteen married the actress Julianne Phillips. She was in, I think, mostly soap stuff. It wasn't to last. Julianne filed for divorce in August of 1988.
35-year-old rock superstar Bruce Springsteen was married by candlelight early this morning. His bride, 25-year-old television actress Julianne Phillips. The wedding party gathered with family and friends at midnight for the quiet, private ceremony at a Catholic church in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon.
They wanted a church wedding along with all the goodies. She had a beautiful wedding gown and Bruce had his tux on.
Meanwhile, about a decade later, 1996, Oasis became the fastest selling group in history, UK history, after all 330,000 tickets for their summer shows sold out in less than 9 hours. They were playing Nebworth, you remember?
Cigarettes and alcohol, yeah?
And it was this week in 1988 that George Michael was fined after being convicted of a lewd act in a Jack's in Los Angeles. I always love playing this report because does anyone spot what's wrong here?
Beverly Hills police officers arrested the singer known as George Michaels. Mr. Michaels was arrested for a violation of 647A of the Penal Code, engaging in a lewd act. The arrest was made by members of the Crime Suppression Unit at Will Rogers Park. They did go into the restroom area of the park and did observe Mr. Michaels engaged in a lewd act. He was by himself.
And in 2015, we lost the blues singer, the songwriter, and the guitar king, B.B. King. Nice way to go. He died in his sleep at the age of 89.
Every day I have the blues. Every day
That was the magical gift B.B. King shared with the world for more than 7 decades. Having purchased his first guitar at the age of 12, he hardly knew a life without playing. So it's no surprise he was performing until the very end. King spent most of his life on the road, routinely doing more than 200 gigs a year.
And it was this week in 1976 that the Stones went to number 1 on the album charts in the States with Black and Blue, their 6th number 1 album in the States and the first studio album released with Ronnie Wood as a replacement for Mick Taylor.
I was in the back seat with Mick, and Marshall Chess and Mick Taylor were in the front seat. And apparently that night he told him he was leaving, and I knew nothing about it. The Stones didn't want to break up the Faces. They didn't want to say, hey Woody, leave that lot, come with us.
And finally this week in 2003, we lost the country singer June Carter Cash, second wife of Johnny Cash. She died in Nashville. Complications following a heart valve replacement surgery. She was 73, and Johnny wouldn't be long following in her footsteps either. Here's Johnny Cash.
She was my biggest critic too. No. If she didn't like something that I did, she told me about it in a hot minute.
I imagine it must be to be married so long and then to lose someone. I imagine people would sometimes just want to stop and say, because spouses sometimes just follow each other, but you're still going and ready to go. Where do you get the energy, the strength?
She told me in the hospital, said, go to work. I said, what are you talking about? She said, don't worry about me. Go to work.
And that is a look at This Week in Music History, May 11th to 15th. My name is Marty Miller. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Let's do it all again next week.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.